For those of you that maybe have not attended one of our webinars yet, I am Rayna Erasmus. I'm the program manager and co-show secretary here at RRP, and I'm joined with Molly, who is our now operations manager and also co-show secretary. And we decided a little bit last minute to do a June trainer webinar check-in with you all and just kind of go over some upcoming deadlines and fun opportunities and really just make sure we're all on the same track to have a successful and safe experience in October. So just starting off with some housekeeping, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Don't need to see Zoom, but now we do. Okay. All right. We're good now. Okay, so we're going to start with going over our upcoming deadlines. Your holy grail, as always, is going to be the rule book. It's all here. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can always email us at secretary@therp.org. But we're just going to go through for now our paperwork deadlines chart here. So we are coming up on the June 27th deadline, and that is the deadline for quite a few things. You'll see here, if you scroll down a little bit, June 27th is when our late trainer applications close. So if you have anyone that has a eligible horse for 2025 and they have not applied yet, or for some reason think that they've missed the window, we are still accepting late trainer applications for the next 10 days, essentially. They're going to need to get that submitted by 5 p.m. Eastern time on June 27th with all their requirements in, but please, we would love to have them. So please encourage your buddies to get their applications in. With that, on June 27th, we have our limited non-jumping restriction lift date deadline. So if you were accepted with a limited non-jumping restriction, you have until June 27th at 5 p.m. to email secretary@therp.org with a link to a video of you jumping a full course of 2-6 or higher. Send that to me with the date filmed, a brief video description, and I will send that to our selection committee for review. If you intend on entering eventing or field hunters, or both, not only do you need a course of a full set of jumps that are 2-6 or higher, must be taken within the last 2 years. You will also need a separate video of you cross-country schooling. That should be just like short clips over a variety of different obstacles. They should all be beginner, novice, height, or higher, so 2-7 or so. We'll need both of those. You'll send, again, the link of that, email that to secretary@therp.org. All by June 27th. Again, include the date filmed, and I really always encourage people to include a video description, just like you did on your application, just to give the selection committee a little bit of background of the horse you're riding, the experience you have with that horse, their temperament, all that kind of stuff. You know, you could say, hey, this horse is a total schoolmaster, and I've ridden him. This was my first time riding him, or I've been riding him for 5 years. Or, you know, this guy is like really forward. He's very strong and I've only ridden him a couple times, or whatever might give the selection committee some helpful information while they review your video. It's not required that you use a video description, but I do always recommend it. So in order to know if you do have a limited non-jumping restriction, there's 2 easy ways to tell. Your actual acceptance letter that was emailed to you will have in there whether or not you have a jumping restriction. And if you log into the portal, right above, I didn't log in as anyone, so I'm not really well prepared to show you guys what that looks like. But if you log into your trainer portal and you scroll down to the My Entries table, there will be, if you have a jumping restriction, it will say like your entry is limited to flat only disciplines or something like that. In red, it's very clear. If that's not there, you don't have a jumping restriction. And if all else fails, you can email us and just ask if you have a jumping restriction if for some reason you don't know. So having a jumping restriction means exactly what you think it is. You can't enter in any discipline in August when final entries open. Any discipline that includes jumping. So that's show jumpers, show hunters, eventing, field hunters. What am I missing? That's it. Show hunters. Okay. I'm operating like we've had a rough go of it the past couple days over here, so you'll have to be patient with us. With that, another restriction is our polo restriction. So for some reason, you didn't originally apply for polo and now you're considering participating in polo. That is one of the disciplines where we do require that you submit video of you showing discipline-specific skills in order to participate in that. For those of you that maybe originally applied for eventing and now you're thinking of just doing competitive trail or dressage or barrels or whatever, you don't necessarily have to submit video of you doing that discipline. The discipline you selected on your application, you are not locked into. However, we have two restrictions that kind of are counterintuitive to that. And that's the jumping restriction, where you're not going to see the jumping disciplines as an option if you have that restriction on your final entry form. And the polo restriction, where if you want to participate in polo and that's not what you originally applied for, we do need video of you showing polo specific skills. So that's going to be short work and stick and ball work, and a little brief description of what your polo experience is, just so that we can make sure that that is going to be a safe experience for you. We love polo and we would love to have some more polo entries, but we do have a very small amount of polo entries so far. So that means pretty much all of them are guaranteed to participate in the championship, which includes a chucker. And so it's very, very important that we know that you're going to be safe playing in traffic. And also that you're going to be safe swinging around a mallet with a horse in prelim competition. So while we encourage you all to explore new disciplines when you're doing the thoroughbred makeover, as always, we emphasize safety and success. So we're going to get into discipline selections a little bit more later, but those are the restrictions. We've been over late applications close already a bit. But along with that, that's general entry edits. So if you applied as a team captain and now you're going to compete as an individual, it's time to let me know. If you applied as an individual and now you want to compete on a team, it's time to let me know that as well. All of these changes you're going to have to email me to make, and that again is June 27th. If you want to bring more horses, so you applied to just bring one horse and now you'd like to enter two, again, June 27th, please email me. You can't increase your horse count through the portal. So if you email secretary@therp.org and just say, hey, I'd like to compete an extra horse. We're not talking about non-compete horses. We can get into that later. If you want to compete another eligible horse at the makeover this year, so you want to register a second or a third, you can bring up to 3 competing horses. You need to email me, secretary@therp.org, and request an invoice for an additional horse registration fee. I will send you that invoice, and once paid, I will increase your horse count and you'll be able to register that second horse. So again, by June 27th, get that done if you'd like to bring more horses. We'd love for you to bring more horses, but we do have to put a deadline on that, and that is June 27th, in order to give everyone enough time to pay and for us on the admin side to get your horse count updated and give you time to register them by the horse registration deadline. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Molly for a second here to talk about horse registrations.
So your horse registrations are due by July 29th, so you do have a little bit more time to get that done. As with all of our deadlines, they are due by 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So July 29th, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. After July 29th, you'll no longer be able to swap your horses in and out. So right now, if you have a horse that's eligible, already registered, you're able to swap in and out other eligible horses. After July 29th, no more of that. You're locked in. Trainers with no horses registered after that date will be automatically withdrawn. So make sure you have a horse registered. As with everything, if you have any questions, if you have any eligibility concerns or anything like that, please feel free to reach out to us. You do register your horse through the trainer portal. You do that by logging in, selecting Thoroughbred Makeover on the tab on the left menu, scrolling down to My Entries, and then selecting Register a Thoroughbred in the Action drop-down menu. And again, if you have any questions, email us.
Yeah. And sorry, I totally skipped over the scholarship section. So my bad.
Okay.
I threw that at you a little early.
If you're registering horses.
Yep.
And they might be eligible for a scholarship.
Right.
When you need to know.
So we're going to talk about that a little bit. If you have not heard, we have the ASPCA Right Horse Scholarship available this year, and we still have plenty of spots left. But that is a first come, first serve scholarship. So I'm going to pull up the page here for you guys to kind of look at it while I talk about it. But essentially, if you have a horse that you adopted through a right horse organization, and you can go on our website and see a list of all those organizations. I'm not going to read that out to you right now, but off the top of my head, you could think of like New Vocation, Second Stride, a bunch of these organizations. So if you got your horse from an accredited aftercare organization, there's a solid chance that they're a right horse partner, which means you could get a pretty significant scholarship that will pretty much cover your final entry fees. There's no scholarship application, but it's first come, first serve, meaning you should register your horse now if you haven't already. The sooner you register your horse, the more likely you are to qualify for that scholarship. So it's pretty simple. Like I said, you just need to correctly indicate on your horse registration form that you got the horse from a right horse aftercare facility. And we will be, going to the facilities and confirming that you did in fact adopt the horse from them. But get your horses registered as soon as possible to get yourselves eligible for some pretty significant scholarship funding. We're really, really excited to be able to offer that to you all this year. And if somehow you don't have your horse yet, and you do have about a month to sort that out, I highly suggest checking out what eligible horses these organizations have. We do have some of them listed on our website. So if you go again, the rrp.org horse listings makeover scholarship program, and you hit view scholarship listings, you'll see some of those horses here. Maybe you'll just take a scroll through, see if you like any of them, and get someone else to take them to the makeover. But seriously, a great way to kind of reduce costs and to find a great horse to bring to the makeover. So I just wanted to make sure I covered that for you all. And then I'm going to turn it back over to Molly.
Now is the time for you guys to be making sure that your horse has a microchip. You do not need to provide your microchip number on your horse registration form. So we don't need that quite yet. You will need to provide it on your final entry form in August though. So this is a little bit looking ahead, but now is definitely the time that you need to scan your horse. In the case that your horse does not have a microchip, it will take potentially a little bit of time to sort that out. There are occasionally a handful of horses that have a microchip registered to them that's no longer reading, and that can take a little bit of time to get squared away. And we want to make sure that you are at the makeover with a horse that with a readable chip. Your horse will need to be scanned during the arrival exam. That is a requirement. So take the time now, scan your horse, make sure that if they aren't scanning, that the reader is working, and make sure that you're scanning all the surrounding areas. If there's any chance that maybe you have a Canadian thoroughbred or thoroughbred that's not from North America, other countries sometimes implant them in the lip. Just scan your horse all over. If you can't find a good reading, go ahead and scan your horse all over. If you scan them head to toe and you still can't find a reading, go to the Jockey Club registry website, go under their other forms, and go to the microchip lookup. You can enter your horse's name and date of birth. They won't give you a microchip number, but they'll tell you if a microchip is registered to that horse or not. If a microchip isn't registered to that horse, that's easy peasy. You guys can purchase a microchip. They're like $15, have it implanted, and then go ahead and register it. Super simple. If they do come back as having a microchip registered, then that means, but you're still not getting a reading, that means that you will need to have some help getting a correction form submitted, and we will be more than happy to kind of be your middleman with sorting that out with the Jockey Club. We've had to do that in the past, and we're happy to help facilitate that. So if you reach out to us and we have the time to help you get that done, happy to do so. And that isn't any big ordeal, but it does require corrections forms. It does require a second microchip and like reassigning the horse and providing proof of this is who we say it is. You guys will just have to provide like documentation of confirmation photos to show identification marks and stuff like that. So nothing crazy, but just stuff that takes a little bit of time, and the jockey club obviously can't do that type of thing overnight. So please scan your horses. Let's make sure that they have a readable chip. If they don't have a readable chip, let's get one in them, or make sure that they should have a microchip. We can get a correction form done for them.
And I'm gonna just what Molly is very nicely saying is scan your horses now. Because if we have to help you with registering a second microchip and doing the corrections form and all of that, we should be starting that process as soon as possible. It's just going to be so much unnecessary stress on you if we are dealing with this in August. And hoping that we can get it done in time for the makeover. Because if your horse does not have a scannable microchip that is registered with a jockey club come the time of your arrival exam, they will not pass the arrival exam. So I don't want to scare you, but you do need to scan your horse now. We don't necessarily need the microchip number for ourselves now, but you should know now. Microchip readers are super cheap on Amazon. Again, scan your horse head to toe. See if you can find the microchip yourself. Look it up with the jockey club. If you can't find one, check with the jockey club to see if they have one. Again, they're not going to give you the number, but if they do have one and you can't find it, that's when you got to start like sounding the alarm bells and reach out to us. Molly's super good with all that. Like she has become our microchip person and she can help you, but give her lead time to help you.
These things can be a little slow. So yeah, it's not a super difficult fix, but yeah, it can definitely take time, and there's nothing we can do if you guys don't have a readable chip, and that's not fun, and we don't want anyone to be stuck at the horse park with a horse that's eligible but not because it doesn't have a scannable chip. So that would be very unfortunate.
Right.
So let's just scan those microchips and make sure you have the number readily available for when you need it.
Do you want to go over horse
Um,
health requirements? I'll pull up the rule.
yeah, let's go right into health requirements. Microchip sounded scary, but I promise it's not. It's a tiny little microchip, and they do migrate sometimes, and people don't think that they can go bad, but it has happened. So just good to know.
Yeah.
So we'll go right into health requirements. All horses entering Kentucky Horse Park grounds must have the following 3 documents. Current proof of negative Coggins, that must be within 12 months. A health certificate within 30 days for out-of-state horses and 12 months for in-state horses. So again, within 30 days for out-of-state horses and 12 months for in-state horses. So if you're in Kentucky, you really lucked out. And then the final thing is your proof of EHV1 vaccine. EHV1 vaccine has to be given no more than 6 months and no fewer than 14 days out. So for this year, that's going to be no earlier than April 6th, 2025, and no later than September 22nd, 2025. Going along with that, there are some rules for acceptable proof that we are able to accept. These can all be found, as Rayna has pulled up, on page 38 of the rule book. Reading along here, acceptable proof would be a bill or receipt with your vet practice name, contact info, date, and your horse's name, particularly for the EH1, indicating the EHV1 administration. A letter on practice letterhead signed and dated verifying administration, and additionally a name and vaccine type noted by your veterinarian that's signed on your health certificate or your import documents, depending on where you're coming from. So those are the only 3 acceptable proof. We cannot accept a receipt from like Tractor Supply or Rural King if you're giving vaccinations yourself. That's not going to work for us. We need it to be one of these 3 documentations. This is not just for us. We have to follow the rules of Kentucky Horse Park, which is Kentucky state rules. So it has to be one of these 3 forms of proof. If you have any issues, if you have any questions, you have to have it sorted out. You have to have these documents by the time you are on KHP grounds. We need to be able to see these in hand at the park. And they should be upload it to your portal, but if all else fails, have them on you.
Yeah. The key there, I understand looking at this now, I think the wording here in the rule book maybe can be improved to be a bit more specific, but when we say a letter on practice letterhead, we mean your veterinarian's practices letterhead. The bill or receipt from your vet. So again, not a Tractor Supply receipt. This has to be every single acceptable form of proof is coming from your veterinarian. There is no world in which we could take proof from you as a civilian saying that you administered the vaccine. You might have a really great relationship with your vet and you might administer your own vaccines, but your vet is willing to put on your health certificate the date that was administered. And that's fine. That is right here, name and vaccine type noted by veterinarian on signed health certificate or import documents. That is acceptable. If they are willing to basically put on your health certificate that they know that this horse was vaccinated against EHV1 on this date, that is the acceptable form of proof that you would need to use if you are someone that administers your own vaccines. Otherwise, talk to your vet now if you are someone that does that, make sure that's okay with them. If not, then it's time to maybe just for this time for your fall shots, schedule them a bit earlier than usual, make sure they're getting done before September 22nd, and have your vet do that shot. This is Kentucky Department of Ag requirements, and we will, if you show up to the makeover and you do not have the proper health certs, I don't want to scare you guys, but I do want to scare you just a little bit because there is nothing we can do. If you do not have the correct health certs, we will be forced to put you in a quarantine stall until you can find your way home. Your horse will not be allowed to participate in the competition, and it's just a huge bummer to spend all of the time, money, and effort that you guys have put in to get there in October to be turned away for something like paperwork. And it does happen. It has happened, and it is just truly heartbreaking. I don't want any of you to have to deal with that. So please talk to your vet now, or just make sure that you have the dates correct. There is no budging on that April 6th or September 22nd. So if your horse has already been vaccinated against EHV1 and it's after April 6th, don't then go get them vaccinated again on, say, September 30th. Because even if they were vaccinated previously within the correct range, if you vaccinate them again outside of those, closer than September 22nd, after September 22nd, that is again violating that rule. So please just make sure they're vaccinated between April 6th and September 22nd, no earlier, no later, and that you have the proper documentation, and we should all be good. But I just can't stress that enough. And let's see, Molly, was there anything else on health requirements, or did you want me to move into arrival exams? Okay, so I'm going to briefly touch on arrival exams, and then we're going to pause for some Q&A on what we have gone over, and then we're going to go into some fun stuff.
I'm going to interrupt you real quick. There's one thing I just thought of. If you have your horse going by a barn name versus their jockey club name,
good one.
That is one thing that you need to make sure is consistent on your paperwork. If your horse is being referred to by their barn name on your health documentations, that's okay. You don't need to get them redone. It's preferred that it's their jockey club name, but if it's already done with their barn name, just have your vet write a letter that says jockey club name, bourbon and beer also goes by bourbon.
Yeah.
And that's perfectly fine. That's just to say, this horse has this alias, it's the same horse. And that's just, again, Kentucky Ag, they can say that no one's sharing health documentation. You can prove that that health documentation goes with that horse. But don't panic if you have a barn name on your health docs and you feel like you need to have a vet call and pay for a farm visit to have them come out and redo anything. You don't. Just ask them to write up this horse is also called this, and you're good.
Yep. Yeah. And just try to keep it consistent across. And a lot of the time, honestly, as long as their microchip is also on all of that paperwork,
that also works.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
You don't even have to have them issue a corrective letter. And if it is something like bourbon and beer, and I can see that this horse is a 17 hand bay gelding on every single one, on all that paperwork, and it just says bourbon on all of it, that's fine, most likely. But if, like, let's say your horse's jockey club name is Bourbon and Beer, we're using this, by the way, because that is my horse's name, and he goes by Steve, well, the arrival exam vets are probably going to have a bit of trouble putting two and two together. So just use a little bit, like, better safe than sorry. Anytime there's any sort of inconsistencies, just have your vet write a clarification letter. Again, something that you don't have to pay for them to come out for. But best case scenario, you just use their jockey club name on all paperwork, and that's just fine and dandy for everyone. But that is a great point. Thank you, Molly, because that does trip people up. And it's not, not something that you are going to fail the arrival exam for, but it might cause for a recheck. If something like that happens and causes confusion with our vets, they might hold you for a recheck and wait, and then you're going to have to call your vet then and have them issue that corrective letter. And again, it's just
for you.
Unnecessary stress. No one wants to deal with that when they're just trying to have fun and compete their horse. So if you could get it all done ahead of time, that's aces. So with that, we're going to talk just briefly about the arrival exam. We will have a webinar in a couple months here where we sit down with our consulting veterinarian, Dr. Shannon Reed, and actually go through the arrival exam process. But I just want to give you guys like two things to keep in mind at this point. One is that, like, baseline, your horse is going to have to be sound at the walk. It's very easy. Again, we're going to go over that like in our webinar with Dr. Reed. But that, like, if you have concerns about, any sort of gait abnormalities, it's best to check in with us now so we can talk to our consulting veterinarian and see if that's something that's going to be a problem. If they're sound but they have some sort of gait abnormality, talk to us about that now. If they have some sort of blemish that you might be concerned about, for the most part, if there's no, like, active heat or swelling, and no blood, like no open wounds, it's probably fine. If they just have ugly ankle jewelry, this is the thoroughbred makeover. That's okay. But if they come in with, like, a very swollen, ouchy to palpation leg, we might have some issues. But if you have anything you're worried about in your horse's body, don't be afraid to reach out to us. We get it all the time. Happy to send, pictures to our vet and make sure everything's all good there. But what I really wanted to talk to you all about is body condition. So we do have the Henneke body condition score chart here in the rule book. So if you have any concerns, take a look at that. Now is the time to check in with your vet. Your horse is going to have to score a 4 or higher in order to pass the arrival exam. Again, we're trying to make sure that we are being good breed ambassadors here, and that this is very, very important. And we know summer is coming and some horses handle the heat better than others. So it's time to just get ahead of it. If you've been struggling with getting your horse to an appropriate weight, it's time to have your vet out, have them do a hands-on assessment of your horse's body condition score, and then talk to you about nutritional needs, what it is you can do to make sure your horse is a 4 or higher. Get that going now. Don't be scrambling in September, because once we get to September, if your horse is not a 4, then it's really, really unlikely you're going to get them a 4 by the time that they need to pass the arrival exam. So set yourself and your horse up for success. We know that, horses that are coming off the track, like, getting their weight to a good point can be difficult. If you're dealing with ulcers, if you're just dealing with all these general changes, they're growing, whatever it might be. However, bottom line is, if they are underneath the 4, they will not pass the arrival exam. So now is the time. Truly consult with your vet, get in touch with a nutritionist, whatever it might be, and work now to get your horse's weight up if needed. Or just, even if they're already at a 4, talk to your vet about what you can do to make sure you sustain that. And again, if you have any concerns about your horse's body condition, another thing that you guys can reach out to us about. So I'm going to do our brief pause now, and if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A chat, and we will. Oh, okay. So apparently it keeps cutting out. So, can I see in the Q&A, is anyone else having issues where it keeps cutting out and saying the host will be back soon? I see that Amy is experiencing this issue. Okay. All right. So it looks like,
Sorry, Amy.
okay, we have one other person that's confirming it's cutting out, and then a few other people saying that they're good. Either way, hopefully I can offer you some comfort in telling you that this is recorded, and we will be posting the recording here in a few days. So if it was cutting in and out, you will be able to watch the recording and be caught up. So we are open to Q&A now briefly. So if you have any questions about anything we've discussed, please let us know. I know Wendy is saying that the Q&A works, but the chat is disabled. That is correct. We do keep the chat disabled just so that we can funnel all of our questions into one place. So if you do have questions, please use the Q&A feature, not the chat. And we have a question here. Will there be an example of what possible drug tests will be done? I have some, have one with some back hoof anxiety from a farrier. So we currently sedate. I want to make sure. So depending on what sedation you're using, you're going to want to check. We follow the USCF drug and medication rules. That's all linked to the rule book. So consult with your veterinarian to see if the sedation you're using is, what levels of it are acceptable via USCF, if at all, and what the withdrawal time is. And hopefully maybe you can start scheduling the farrier appointments as such that whatever sedation you need to use for your horse's appointments will be well outside the testing window. And then I remember you mentioning in a previous webinar about blemishes at the vet check. My hopeful is on 24-hour turnout with others and may have a scab or two. Is this something he will be turned away from at the makeover? If so, should I remove him from his turnout situation before coming to avoid any potential scabs? No. Again, like normal little scabs and stuff like that are totally fine. But if you have like an open bleeding wound, that would be something to be concerned of. And if it's just little like turnout nicks, which they get, if that's something that happens a day or two before the makeover, that should be more than fine by the time you're doing your arrival exam. And even still, again, like a little cut or scrape is going to be fine as long as it's not something that's actively bleeding, actively hot, palpating sore. That's what they're looking for. But tiny little blemishes, you really don't need to be concerned about. So I don't want you to feel like you have to take your horse away from their buddies so that they look like pristine. Horses are horses. They're going to go out and have fun with their buddies, and they're going to come in with, a nick or two, and that's totally okay. All right. And Isabel says, thank you for doing this. It is extremely helpful. You're welcome, Isabel. We are happy to do this. All right. So I'm going to give you guys one more second for questions here, and then we'll move on to the second half of the webinar, but we will open up for questions again at the end. And I'm going to go back to our little handy dandy dates here, make sure I didn't miss anything. Why am I scrolling like this? I at least turn my screen share off so you guys don't have to witness what I'm doing.
Just me.
Okay, so I will share my screen again. And we will move on. So hopefully we don't take up too much of your night. All right, so just starting from the top here, trainer applications we've talked about. We've talked about the horse registration form. We have talked about trainer applications closing, entry type changes. We have talked about EHV1, and we're about to get into the final entry form here and clinics, which we're very excited to talk about. So this is my little soapbox I'm going to step on here about choosing the right discipline. So we are now mid-June. The makeover is going to be here before we know it. This is really the time to just like get serious about what disciplines you want to aim for and get realistic about it. We have 10 different disciplines for you all to choose from. And all horses operate off of their own timeline. So you might have been aiming for eventing originally, but you might still be working on those canter transitions and might not have started jumping with your horse. And that is perfectly okay. But that's why we offer things like dressage and freestyle and so many other avenues so that you can take this at your speed and your horse's speed. We don't want you to come to the makeover and overface yourself, overface your horse. And like, as we always stress, the makeover is just the beginning. So many of you will come to the makeover that is ready to, with a horse that is ready to run beginner novice in eventing or jump 2.6 in hunters and the 0.80 or 85 or whatever height we're now using in the show jumpers. And that's fantastic. But what I want you guys to do is really sit and assess where you're at with your horse's training, what you feel like you need to work on in order to be comfortable in August, because our final entry form opens August 5th with selecting a certain discipline. Make sure you're exposing your horse to the right, like to all the different environments that they're going to experience, right? Setting them up for success. So if anyone has any questions about that, again, we could talk about that in our next Q&A about what maybe you're struggling with your horse and if any of your fellow trainers have advice or whatever it might be, how we can help you choose the appropriate discipline. But don't be afraid to pivot and don't be afraid to try something new, right? Maybe you have a horse that is jumping, but you're not ready to introduce them to cross-country fences, or maybe they're just generally a bit more nervous out on cross-country. Well, we have show jumpers and show hunters, and there's so many different options for you there, right? Maybe you want to take it slower, and so you want to do something like show hunters while you produce them up the levels for show jumping or eventing. There's so many different options here. Same with field hunters. And taking it outside of jumping. Maybe you originally intended to do barrel racing, but your horse, you've had to be very slow with them and really work on flat work. Now's a great time to try out some Western dressage. You're putting the work in on putting such a great foundation on your horse's flat work. Try out some Western dressage. Try some competitive trail, ranch work, freestyle. Freestyle is really a great one to consider if you need to tailor things very specifically to your horse, but you have some skills that you really want to show off. That gives you a lot more creative liberties. And you can really meet your horse where they're at because you don't necessarily have to ride them in your freestyle demonstration. There are movements that you need to meet, but you don't need to ride them for everything, right? So if you're not ready to canter them under saddle, you can show that on the ground. So just a lot of really great options. And I just want you to think about what your horse is going to be ready for in October. Obviously, we have a little less than 2 months until actual discipline selections even open. So a lot can change between now and then. Your horse can really, really flourish between now and then. Your horse can get an abscess and you can have a setback. And that's like, I always say, have a plan and have a backup plan and just be prepared and open to pivoting. And with that too, once you get to August, again, we have had a lot of people who they select a discipline in August and their horse might not actually be competing at that level yet, but they know because they know their horse best. You guys know your horses better than I know your horses. They know what kind of progress they're going to be able to make, and they are comfortable with taking the risk of, you know what, we are not competing at beginner novice yet, but we will be by October. But then there's other people that are like, my horse isn't really jumping yet, and I really want to do hunters, but I don't know. And my advice to you is if you don't know, don't enter in it. We have so many other options and there's so many other ways to still participate in the makeover and have a great experience without maybe pushing yourself and your horse a little bit too far. I don't want you guys to feel like you're rushing your training in order to meet a goal. And I think with that is where I'd like to kind of segue into clinics here. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second. We started offering clinics last year and we're going to open them back up again this year. We plan to update the website here soon with the details and the prices, but I do have them in my head a little bit. So if you're one of those people that maybe your horse is schooling over fences, but you're not quite ready to actually compete them at the makeover in that environment over a full course of 2 6+ fences, I would really consider entering something like dressage and then signing yourself up for a clinic. If you know that you guys can hold your own in a 2 6 clinic, but maybe not in a course, in a competition, you're going to need to move a little bit slower and be able to take things at a pace and work with a clinician. We have a wonderful opportunity for that. So the clinics are going to be taking place on the Friday after prelim competition. So prelim competition is going to occur on Wednesday and Thursday. Friday is what we call our dark day. So no competition will be happening on Friday, but we will have clinics. We will be offering dressage fix-a-test / mini lessons where you get 30 minutes in the ring with the judge to essentially do whatever you please. You can just strictly treat it as a mini lesson, or you can come in, redo your test that you did in prelim competition. They can give you some feedback and you guys can work on specific movements from that test. It's your 30 minutes to use how you want. Anything other than harassing the judge, we don't allow that. But you do have 30 minutes in the ring and that's your time to use. So we will have a lot of spots open for that. For show hunters, we will have a couple group clinics. So these are going to be groups of 6 or less, and it's an 1.5 hour long clinic. So obviously we don't expect you and your horse to go for an 1.5 hour straight, but that's to make sure there's plenty of time for everyone to participate and everyone to get plenty of breaks in. So we have group clinics for show hunters. We also have group clinics for show jumpers. All clinics, dressage, show hunters, and show jumpers, and we're going to get to competitive trail here in a second, are all going to be taught by the judges that judged that discipline. So it's again, a great way to get back in with the judge that you worked with in prelim competition too. So maybe you are someone who you are fully confident that you are ready to go do show hunters at the makeover, but you know that top 10 is really unlikely for you, and it's going to happen. You're going to be safe and successful, but it might not be top 10 material yet because you guys are just coming along at your own pace, right? And you're going to want to get a little bit more time out in the ring. Great. Enter the clinic, work on what you want to work on with the judges. Again, that's a great time to go over your scorecard with them and say hey, what could I have done better? I got a 6 on this jump, or I got a 6 on this movement. How can I bring that to an 8? And work on that with those judges. Again, great opportunity to do that. Great opportunity to do a discipline that you wanted to do in competition, but didn't quite feel ready to sign up for. So all of them will be taught by the judges. For dressage, you'll essentially end up with whatever judge is ready for you for those clinics. But it will be one of the judges for pure dressage that either judged your test or your demonstration ride. So it will be a judge that judged you in prelim competition, unless you just do eventing. Our eventing dressage judge will not be participating in the clinics just because we will only have 2 rings open. Anyway, more information than you guys need, but just be prepared. For hunters and jumpers, we will explicitly state which judge will be teaching which clinic, if we have certain times with judge 1 and certain times with judge 2, or if they will be teaching the clinics together. We're still kind of sorting that out with our judges, what their preferences are, if they prefer to co-teach or if they prefer to each have their own session. So that will allow you to pick which clinician you'd like to train with, or if you get to just train with both of them at the same time. And then we have our competitive trail clinics, and we're super excited to offer those this year. We're going to have at least, I think, 1 or 2 intro to competitive trail. So competitive trail 101. So if you didn't compete in competitive trail and prelim competition and you have no idea what competitive trail is and you want to give it a shot, that's the clinic for you. Again, it's going to be, I believe, 6 participants, 6 horses and riders, an 1.5 hours. And that'll be a lot of fun, introducing you guys just to the basics of competitive trail with our judges from prelim competition. And then we will also have 30-minute supervised play day sessions where our judges will be out on the course. And this is going to be more so for the folks that participated in competitive trail in the prelim competition. to go back out and kind of play along with the obstacles that they maybe struggled with in prelim competition. And the judges will be there to help and give feedback, but it'll be a little bit more informal than like a true clinic. So you kind of get to pick and choose what you do, and you can, ask the judge to come over and give you their pointers and all that fun stuff. So we will have a couple open slots for that as well. And that will be about 3 people on the course at a time for, I think, about 30 minutes. And for all of these, we're going to be offering a limited number of alumni clinic slots. So if you participate in the makeover in the past and you've always wanted to bring your graduate back, or one of your friends has a makeover graduate, whether they competed the horse or not, if the horse is a graduate themselves and they never got to participate in the makeover, that horse can come back and participate in clinics. So that's something to keep in mind now. It's going to be a very limited number of spots. Again, all of this is going to open at the same time that final entry opens, August 5th. It's going to close on August 29th. And this is where I'm really going to encourage you guys to just start working clinics into your plan now. If we do not have enough, like we will be allowing for some last minute signups for clinics, but that's only if we get enough clinic signups between August 5th and 29th to determine that we will be hosting them in the first place. So I would just really, really encourage you all to sign up for clinics. You're going to be there all week anyway. It's a great way to just really maximize your time at the horse park and with these wonderful resources. And if you end up making it in the top 10, if you get to the championship on Saturday, you're going to get refunded for your clinic spot. You won't be able to participate in the clinic because you'll have jogs and a bunch of other things going on that day. But you will be refunded for your clinic fees. So in that case, you don't have to worry about it. It's not necessarily a risk. But for the rest of you, it's just, again, a great way to maximize your time and really, really end on a positive note. Competitions are competitions and things might not always happen the way you want to. And this is your chance at a redo and to end on a positive note and to really give your horse a positive experience. I see we have some questions and I am going to get to those in a little bit. And we have costs for clinics too, off the top of my head. I should have written that down.
I'll be there, buddy.
I will throw that. That will be on our website, but I will say, I believe the group clinics for hunters and jumpers are probably about, I think that last year they were 150, and I would imagine that that's where they're at again. The 30-minute mini dressage lessons, I think, are about 50. And the group competitive trail clinics are, I think, 100, and the schooling sessions might be 50 as well. So we changed it a little bit from last year, so it's not like quite fresh on my mind, but the most expensive clinic option, if I remember correctly, is 150. And so overview of final entry expectations. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again. We have here the final entry form. So again, this is where you're going to select your disciplines. Each horse can be entered in up to 2 disciplines at the Thoroughbred Makeover. Oh, sorry. You're going to select your jump heights. So a lot of our jumping disciplines do have jump height options. This is where you're going to register for your clinics. It's where you're going to select your horse's sale status if you are participating in the Makeover Marketplace, which is completely voluntary. But if you would like to advertise your horse in the Makeover Marketplace, this is where you're going to determine that you're doing that. This is where you're going to report your microchip number to us. Like we talked about earlier, you cannot hit submit on your final entry form if you do not have your horse's microchip number. So please keep that in mind. That's why we talk about getting that microchip number sorted sooner rather than later. You don't want to have to wait until the last minute to submit that your final entry form, because we do go first come, first serve on these disciplines, and some of these disciplines like dressage fill up faster than others. We were able to accommodate the entirety of our wait list last year, so I don't want to scare you guys too much on that, but as with everything, the sooner you can submit your paperwork, the better. So get your microchip number so that you don't have anything stopping you from submitting that form. This is also where you're going to determine your stabling needs. Are you just shipping in and, working off of your trailer every day? Or are you going to need to stable your horse at the horse park? We don't really distinguish between the two, but you might decide to use a layover facility and have a day stall. So you're going to pay for a stall at the Kentucky Horse Park and just kind of ship in and out and have a place to keep your horse. That's a great option. We could talk about that if you guys want to. Let me know in the Q&A. But again, that all comes down to horses being individuals. So that is the final entry form. Opens August 5th. It closes August 29th. So if you do not submit that form and pay for your final entry fees after August 29th, your entry just with the horse registration form will be considered a scratch. You will be withdrawn from consideration. So it's very important that you get that form submitted and you pay your fees there. We'll talk about all the different fees here in a second. There are some parts of the form that can be edited until September 5th, and that is your marketplace entry. That is your stabling needs, but that's more adding stabling than removing stabling. We can remove stabling if you need to. But in terms of what you will be able to do without contacting us, what you will be able to do on the form alone is adding a marketplace entry, adding stabling needs, adding clinic registrations, and changing your jump heights. So if you originally signed up to do 3-foot hunters and sometime between the 29th and the 5th, and you're like, you know what, I think I'd be more comfortable at 2.6. You can go in there and change your jump height up until September 5th. After September 5th, that's it. We cannot make any changes for you all. We will try our best, but we kind of go right into planning your stabling and assigning ride times. And it is quite a task for a 10 discipline horse show when some of you guys have 3 horses all in 2 disciplines each. So it's really important for us to have some lead time, and we really don't play around when it comes to the final entry deadlines here. So, and notice how on the final entry edit state, it does not include changing your discipline. When you hit submit on that final entry form, you should consider yourself locked into that discipline. And after August 29th, you are 100% locked into that discipline. You can withdraw from it, but you cannot change your disciplines after August 29th. So please keep that in mind. That's why I kind of talked to you guys about thinking critically about what your horse is going to be ready for come August. Because once you've submitted that form, you cannot change which disciplines you're participating in. And you'll see here, it does say that September 5th is going to be that date where we determine the minimum threshold for hosting clinics. So I really, really encourage you all, if you think you might want that opportunity to participate in clinics, to go ahead and sign up when you're doing your final entry form. It's going to be super helpful for us so that we can get a good gauge on numbers, and helpful for all of your friends that really wanted to participate in it. Please don't be the person that's just like, I'll wait until last minute. The reason we open up, like if we do host clinics at all, that kind of last minute period where you can sign up for clinics on site is really for those that ended up not having the day that they expected, and giving them that last chance to sign up and end on a positive note. So it's not so that all of you can wait until the last minute. If all of you decide to wait until the last minute for clinics, we're not going to be able to host clinics. We do have to determine that threshold as of September 5th. So please keep that in mind and just kind of work clinics into your plan. It's really just such a great way to end on a positive note for these greenies. And I said we were going to go over pricing. So we'll scroll down here a little bit. We talked about the disciplines, how you can enter each horse in up to 2. The first discipline for every horse is going to be $150. That is a bit more expensive than your second discipline because it includes the schooling fees and it includes the drug testing fees. So that's $150. Every horse that is competing in the makeover is going to pay that because you have to enter at least one discipline, obviously. And your second discipline is $100. So same fees no matter what disciplines you enter, but first discipline is $150, second discipline is $100. The stalls, we did have to increase them due to the Kentucky Horse Park price changes. they are $255 a stall. That is whether it is for a horse or for tack, and that is flat rate for the entire week. So you can move into your stall anytime after noon on Monday, October 6th, and you have that stall until 8 a.m. on that Sunday, which is the 12th, I believe. So you have from the 6th to the 12th, it's $255 flat rate. Again, you can, that's for whether it's a tack stall or a horse stall, and whether it's for a competition horse or a non-compete horse. If you're shipping in, which we talked about a little bit, if you are not going to need a stall at the makeover at all, at the Kentucky Horse Park at all, if you're going to be taking your trailer to day trailer parking and you're going to be working off of your trailer all day, that is $60 just per individual entry. So not per horse, just per you, per final entry form submission. It's just a flat rate of $60. This right here, this non-compete horse fee, we're actually editing the rule book. This is going down to $20. We are decreasing the price of the non-compete horse fee, and that has to do a little bit with our alumni clinic offerings. So that's something to think about. Again, if you're doing the alumni clinics, you would pay the clinic fee and then a $20 non-compete fee. Or if you are just bringing a companion horse for your makeover horse, you will pay a $20 we're calling it a grounds fee now rather than a non-compete horse fee, but it will be a $20 grounds fee per non-compete horse. This rule book will be updated by the end of the week. So the marketplace listings, again, this is an exclusive listing service that we offer just for eligible horses participating in the makeover that year. So it's obviously for this year exclusive to 2025 horses. And there's a standard rate for $50 and a featured rate for $60. And those both have different things that are included with them. I'm not going to go over all of that. We'll kind of go over that in August when we do our final entry webinar. But that is the full list of fees besides the clinic fees of what you can expect to pay for. And now I'm going to go into our champs format. So if you somehow do not know by now, I am happy to inform you all that we are changing up the format this year. In previous years, we did our finale format where the top 5 from every discipline were invited back to the finale, and everyone competed in their discipline in the covered arena. And this year we're switching it up. We are now inviting back double the amount of horses. So it's the top 10 from every single discipline. And now for the most part, you all will be competing in the venue that you participated in prelim competition. The covered arena is, often a overwhelming place for some of the horses with the big jumbotron, and we are hoping that this will be a more horse-friendly experience. Obviously, those that participated in the covered arena in prelim competition, their horses will be used to that environment already. But that way, you guys don't have to get your horses used to a new environment strictly for the sake of the championship. So now we have individual championships. There will not be one overall winner. There will just be the discipline winners. So the top 10 from every discipline will go back mostly to their original prelim competition venues. I can tell you that show hunters and show jumpers will continue in the same venue that they were in for prelim competition. Competitive trail will be in the same venue that they were in for prelim competition. Ranch work, freestyle, barrel racing. So those are the guys that'll be all in the same venue that they were in for prelim competition. Dressage will be moving from the Walnut into that hunter jumper complex. So they will not be moving into the covered arena. They will still be staying outside in a similar venue to what they were in prelim competition. Eventing and field hunters will be moving from the cross country fields to the hunter jumper complex. So again, still outside, not going into the covered arena. Polo will be moving from out in the polo field into the covered arena. At least I'm pretty sure about that. I know we've gone back and forth, but I think for green horses participating in a chucker, I think we decided ultimately that we would have that hosted in the covered arena so that you guys have walls. What am I missing? What discipline am I missing? Did I say ranch work? Ranch work will still be in the covered. I think I got everyone. If I didn't, yell at me in the Q&A. Yeah, or check the rule book. But for the different formats, I did want to go over with you guys that we have some changes from last year to this year. For prelim competition, show jumpers, you'll notice we made some changes to how the courses will be set up. You'll see like there will be ground lines for every fence. It will start with a trot fence, and there will be no gymnastics portion. So instead you will have your flat pattern, and then you will have course 1 and course 2. There will be no more gymnastics portion, which is why instead we're starting with a trot fence. And there are some changes to the jump heights there as well. So look at that for our show jumpers. For our eventing, we are moving from a 3-phase to a more young event horse style format, which I should say we're moving back because originally the makeover format for eventing was modeled after young event horse. So you guys will all do the same dressage test. Again, the dressage test that we're using is in the rule book. I believe it's novice test A, but don't quote me on that. And then you will all go out to the cross country field and you will do a mix of show jumping and cross country fences. I believe it starts with show jumping and then goes into show jumping style fences and then goes into cross country fences. And similar to every year, and this goes for all of our jumping disciplines, every single jump is judged and scored 1 through 10. So that's the same. It's just the actual format rather than having dressage, show jumping, and cross country. Show jumping and cross country are now combined. So it's a 2-phase competition rather than a 3-phase competition. I believe that's all the changes for prelim competition in terms of like major formatting changes, but please always look in the rule book and I'll show you guys how to find it. So if you go to the rule book, scroll to our handy dandy table of contents, and then keep scrolling. And over here, discipline competition formats. And you can click on it and it's nice and smart and it'll bring you right here and you can start your scrolling. And it starts with all our different types of faults and eliminations. And then it goes into each individual discipline, what their format is, how they're scored. So as you're making decisions about what discipline you want to enter with your horse, look at the rule book and read the format for the discipline. Most of our disciplines are modeled a little bit differently than the traditional competition. So it's very, very important that as you're picking the discipline you want to do, you know what you're getting yourself into, because it might not look like your regular hunter show. It will not look like your regular barrel racing competition because you will have to do a flat pattern first. So these are all things to keep in mind. In terms of the championship format, a couple things that are going to be different than they would have been in the previous finale format. For ranch work, we have added a I call it an under saddle, sorry, English rider. I think a rail class is what it's called. Sorry, excuse my ignorance. So there will essentially be a flat class and the cattle sorting. And for hunters, we will have them come back for a hack class for an under saddle for the championship format. In previous years, they just did their jumping course. In this year, you guys will get to come back. The top 10 will do their under saddle hack as well. So those are all some exciting changes. Again, easiest way to know what's being changed is to scroll through this rule book and look at things that are in red or in blue. Blue just means clarifying something from last year, but it's not really a change. It's just a clarification. Anything in red is a change from the previous year. So that's an easy way to see what is different from last year or, 2 years ago, whatever, if you haven't competed recently. Great way to check for changes. But if you are new to the makeover, most certainly please read the discipline format from top to bottom so that you know exactly what you're getting yourself into. But that's a great way to check that. Molly, do you feel like I'm missing anything? All right. So I'm ready for questions. All right.
All right. So starting off, Keely, she has a 4-day haul from BC. How early can she arrive to allow some recovery time? Can't arrive any earlier than noon on Monday, October 6th.
Mhm.
So if this is a concern for you and you want some extra recuperation time, I would definitely consider layover farm, not layup farm. There are a ton of farms in the area that you can hang out at for a couple days. And if you want to then ship in to KHP for the week, or even stay there and just ship in for the day, whatever works for you, whatever works for your horse. But that's a great option for people that need a couple days, or like just travel plan wise, it's not going to work out for them to get in at a reasonable time or something like that. Or for people who their horses need the turnout and a round pen will not do.
Yeah.
So that would be my recommendation. But yeah, no earlier than noon on Monday.
Correct.
And
Yep.
that is a hard line.
Right.
No earlier than noon on Monday. That's when we get the stalls.
Yeah.
So we cannot budge
Yeah,
on that.
we do not have access to the stalls before noon on Monday, so it's not us trying to be rude. Like, we would love to give you more time to settle in, but the Kentucky Horse Park, because they have events that they host before us,
Yeah.
and they need time to get the people from the previous event moved out of the stalls and clean those stalls so that you guys aren't going into yucky, dirty stalls. They do not give us access until noon on Monday, and we have had issues with people trying to move into those stalls earlier than that. It causes a lot of problems. Our ground jury is there. And if we see you moving into your stalls earlier than noon, even if you're trying to set up before you bring your horse, not allowed. Noon on Monday is when you can start putting things in front of your stalls. But yes, as Molly said, if you need some recovery time for your horses, I mean, a lot of people will just come in on Sunday and stay at a layover facility with their horses and then come in on Monday at noon. And that works. Some people will come in on Sunday and wait and not check in until Tuesday. I really don't recommend that. Please check in as soon as you can so that you don't end up waiting forever to get your vet check done.
That's a blanket recommendation. We always recommend checking in on Monday. If you
Yeah,
guys
people were
possibly
really good about that last year, and I was so proud of everyone because they really listened to me saying, get there on Monday so that you can actually take advantage of ticketed schooling on Tuesday. So if anyone has questions about ticketed schooling, let me know. But yeah, my biggest recommendation is if you feel like your horses are going to need a day or 2 or 3 to recover, kind of back into that. Find a layover facility in Lexington. Use the trainers group on Facebook and ask for recommendations on layover facilities. There's tons of them. Or just search in the group layover facility and you'll see all the different times people have talked about it in the group and their previous recommendations. You could stay there for a few days, give your horse turnout, time to stretch their legs, all that kind of stuff. And then you can come to the horse park at noon on Monday.
Perfect. Okay. Can non-compete horses do the clinics if a horse is joining them anyway?
Only if that horse is a graduate horse. The clinics are only open to competing 2025 horses and makeover graduates.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, this one is if the discipline we put on our application is different than what we are entering on our final entries, do we need to provide any additional videos in order to enter? For example, this horse is not proving to enjoy seeming to enjoy over fences, but is enjoying ranch work competitive trail. So they initially signed up for show jumper, show hunter.
No, like I always say email us specifically because it always depends on the committee member who reviewed your application. Some of them will be like, I want to know. But overall, the answer to that is no, as long as it's not, as long as you don't have, as long as it's not the opposite scenario, right? You planned on maybe doing barrel or ranch work and competitive trail, so you didn't supply jumping video in your original application, so you're accepted with a jumping restriction. You're not going to be able to enter a jumping discipline on your final entry because you have that restriction. But overall, if you're moving from a jumping discipline to a flat only discipline, you don't necessarily need approval from us unless that discipline is polo. Polo is the big one where we do need videos from you if you guys want to do that. But overall, my stepping on a soapbox, sorry, never have a quick answer to any question. As long, like, do a discipline as long as you know that you can do that discipline justice, right? So for ranch work is a great example of that. There will be cows, even in prelim competition. Make sure your horse is exposed to cattle and make sure you know rules for tack and all that kind of stuff. Competitive trail is a little bit more, in terms of like discipline, like there's a lot more fluidity to Western versus English tack. Ranch work has to be done in Western tack. You have to have like the specific head stall. Like there's a lot more equipment rules in ranch work than there are in competitive trail. So make sure you know that and that you're going to do the discipline justice. And you're going to be able to show respect to our judges and to your fellow competitors that have worked very hard in that discipline, as I'm sure you have. But just want to make sure everyone is prepared that like we want you to try new disciplines and we think that's great. Just make sure you know the rules going in and that you have the appropriate equipment to participate in that and that your horse is properly exposed. Ranch work, Wendy, our course designer, always does a fabulous job. Chris, our competitive trail course designer, always does a fabulous job. We had an adorable Wizard of Oz themed course last year. But again, in ranch work, there will be cows, and some horses don't like cows.
So good on you for being prepared to pivot. Exactly.
Yes, thank you for pivoting.
Exactly what you need to do for horses.
And
so that's wonderful.
Yes.
Okay. How many clinics are, this is Amy, how many clinics are we allowed to participate in? Will there be an eventing clinic in particular? And we already went over general costs, but Amy, feel free to drop an additional question. I think we're good on costs, but
there will not be an eventing clinic due to venue restrictions and costs. We can only offer show jumping, which if you are an eventer, I would suggest either doing dressage or show jumping, but it is one clinic per horse and rider. I will double check, but I think if you're bringing multiple horses, you do have to choose like which horse you want to take in a clinic. It's one clinic per horse and one clinic per rider type deal. Now, if you're bringing two horses and you want another competitor to take your second horse in a clinic, reach out to us. We can make that happen. But just due to time constraints and all that stuff, and it all happening on one day after 2 days of competition, it is one clinic.
And she did get pricing. So
awesome.
Wendy said the dressage clinic was awesome last year. Thanks, Wendy.
Thanks, Wendy.
We got good feedback on the clinics. We're really excited to bring them back.
Yeah.
We hope everyone enjoyed them as much as they said they did and signs up again. So we can keep hosting them. Healy said, is there camping with the stabling? Who do we contact to arrange camping?
Camping is all done through the Kentucky Horse Park. It's not included in stabling. And your horses also cannot go to the campgrounds. Those two things are very far away from each other, very separate. So you cannot camp in your horse's stall and your horse cannot camp with you on the campground. But we handle stabling. The horse park, Kentucky Horse Park, handles camping. So if you need to do camping arrangements, you're going to want to go to the KHP website and arrange that.
This will also very much so be covered in your final entry webinar, but be prepared that when you make your stabling request and everything, we don't do your shavings. We don't do your round pen rentals or anything like that. That is not us.
Yeah.
So we take stalls and your stabling request, and that's it.
Yep.
Any of those reservations, if you want to get a round pen, best of luck to you guys. They are hard to get. You may already be too late.
I would say you are too late.
Try to find a friend, honestly. A lot of people are happy to share and try to like parcel out their round pen rental and share the cost and share the time in their round pen. But if you need shavings or feed or just general stall supplies, that's Deaver, that's not us. And that info is all in the rule book, of course. What are the, this is Taylor, what are the jump height options we get to choose from?
So that's going to depend on each discipline. But I will say essentially the lowest height is 2 foot 6 inches. We do meters for show jumping now, and I believe we have it like 0.80 to 0.85, whatever that is. I'm so sorry. The metric system still evades my brain. But 2.6 is the lowest height option. For eventing, it's beginner, novice, or novice. For hunters, we have 2.6 or 3 foot. And for show jumpers, it's in meters, but it's essentially 2.6, 2.9, 3 foot, or 3.3 were our options previously. But that is all in the rule book. Field hunters, there is one jump height option, and that is like 2.6, 2.7. Beginner novice is essentially the height option for field hunters. So that one, you don't actually choose your height.
Okay, then Alicia wants to know, can you get a tack stall as well? Yes, you can.
Yep.
And if you enter 2 disciplines, can you withdraw from the second one after the deadline?
Yeah, you can withdraw from the first or the second one after the deadline. That's perfectly fine.
You're allowed to not do things.
Yeah, like we're not gonna like make you do a discipline just because you signed up for it. It's just that you can't change what the discipline that you're entered in is. We do have a refund timeline and policy in the rule book as well. So just know that after a certain date, those fees are non-refundable, whether you withdraw or not. But we do have a pretty generous refund schedule. So just look at that in the rule book too and keep that in mind.
So, and Keely, we answered this one earlier with your earlier question, but I know this kind of dropped later. Additional days of stabling available? Nope, sorry. Afternoon on Monday, you guys can come, set up, move in. You have to be out by 8 a.m. Sunday morning.
Yep.
That is the block of time that we have the stalls for. After that, KHP, you don't have to strip your stalls. They clean up behind you, but they come through, their crews clean up. Horses cannot be there anymore.
Yeah.
So,
I will say if you need to stay later, that's something that you can arrange and pay for through KHP separately. But if you try to like just bunker down and stay in your stall squatters' rights style after 8 a.m. on Sunday, whatever bill we get from the horse park because you did that, we will be sending to you plus extra fees for the inconvenience. So don't do that.
But yeah, you can see if there's if KHP has the ability to let you stay for a fee, of course.
There's
you can talk to them because you do usually have availability after us. So you can talk to them. But again, if you're
there's a
open
high
to layover, then
there's a high likelihood if where they can let you pay to stay longer, but you're gonna need to move your stall. So that's something to keep in mind. If you're not gonna want to move all of your stuff to just stay an extra hour, 24 hours, I would figure something else out, knowing that that might be the case, because it just depends on what's going on with the show after us, and that's unfortunately out of our control.
Yeah. Okay, then Amy said, how late on the 6th can we check in? And do you know when a schedule will be released from the makeover to coordinate family and traveling with the horse? So check-in being open and when you come to the horse park are 2 different things, which is beneficial for you guys. If you guys need to come late on Monday, no problem. Come in, get your horse into a stall. If you're coming at like 9 or 10 o'clock, I pray will not be there.
we might be there, but we will not be checking you in.
Check in.
But that doesn't mean you can't come.
Yeah.
You can still come. We just can't check you in.
Yeah. So you'll just, we ask that you guys have, and again, this will be covered again in final entry, but so you have the information now. We ask that you guys have a makeshift bridle number, a piece of masking tape or something, or an old bridle number, put that on your horse for identification purposes. If your horse is going to be out of the stall at all, but you can come get your horse set up, put him in a stall, and then you'll come to check in the following morning on Tuesday if you're coming in late at night. And schedule?
Yeah, so schedule generally, all of this will become more clear in August, but there is a prelim schedule up on the website already. In terms of actual hours that check-in is open, it's probably going to be, so stalls open at 12, but I think we're like actual rider check-in will open either 12:30 or 1. And rider check-in will close, I think, at 6 p.m. on Monday. And then it reopens Tuesday bright and early at 8 a.m. And we will be there until about 5 p.m. So if you know that you are going to be getting to the horse park, first of all, don't. But if you know you're going to be getting to the horse park after 5 p.m. on Tuesday, you're going to need to arrange like a private check-in with us separately, because check-in closes. Like we're done, arrival exams are done after 5 p.m. on Tuesday. It might even be 4. We will get that schedule out earlier, but like we will make that all very clear in August and September of what the exact times are and when you need to be there and when you need to start alerting us. But in terms of scheduling purposes, you can show up anytime after noon on Monday. If you get there at 10 p.m., just like she said, move your horse in the stall and come find us in the morning. If that's what you need to do to make sure you don't, to avoid taking off extra days from work, totally fine. We get it. But you have to be there by like 4 or 5 p.m. on Tuesday. That's when we're closing check-in. And after that, it gets a little bit more complicated in terms of arranging your rider check-in and your horse's arrival exam.
Perfect. All right. And Courtney asked, can you do a clinic in a different discipline than what you showed in?
Yes. Keeping in mind jumping restrictions. So if you have a jumping restriction on your entry, you're not going to be able to enter a jumping clinic. So if you do want to enter a jumping clinic, get in contact with me about that. And we can see if we can arrange something. You will need jumping experience. You will need to supply jumping videos. But we can be a little bit more lax on the restrictions. But yes, if you are competing in eventing and you want to do a dressage clinic, or again, if you're any discipline and you want to do a competitive trail clinic, we're going to have the intro to competitive trail clinics. We absolutely, I won't get like too in the weeds, but the short answer to that is yes.
Anne Marie says that round pens are sold out in July.
Yes.
That tracks. It's crazy. Sorry. Find a friend. If you guys need round pens, use that Makeover Trainers group on Facebook and cry and beg and plead for a friend with a round pen and see what you can do. The layover barns are great if you need a really legitimate turnout option. Horses are horses. No turnout is not ideal for most of them. Also, like, there's a lot of grounds where you are allowed to hack and where you are allowed to hand graze. So hopefully all hope is not lost.
Yeah, I will say with that, our trainers have been really good every year. Those that have managed to snag a round pen, they're not going to be putting their horse in said round pen for, 24/7. So a lot of the times they will put up a schedule and be like, hey, who wants to rent my round pen from me for an hour, 2 hours, whatever. But keep in mind, like, they are just small round pens. If your horse needs actual turnout, it's really unlikely to be a good substitute for that. And that's where the layover facilities really, really come in handy. And I've seen people have a lot of success where they have a stall at the horse park. And sometimes it's just they alternate. Like one night their horse will stay at the horse park. The next night the horse will go be turned out at the layover facility. And some people will just simply use their stall as a day stall. Like there's so many different ways, and you might figure it out as you go too, as long as you communicate with that layover facility, whatever. There's so many options. If your horse needs turnout, the round pen is likely not going to be the solution anyway. That is going to be your layover facility. So don't panic. Everyone panics about the round pens every year. Don't panic.
They're always sold out so early.
Yeah, they're sold out so early, and like someone will help you get a little bit of round pen time if your horse just needs a little bit of round pen time. But if your horse needs actual turnout time, the round pen was not the solution for you anyway. And the solution is a layover facility.
If I was approved for jumping in my application, am I okay to do dressage as well, or would I need to submit another video to be approved? Nope, you're all good.
You're all set. All right. And we're going to do a last call here for questions. And as we do that, the question about check-in times reminded me to jump on another soapbox about ticketed schooling. So every single one of you, you're going to get 2 schooling tickets per horse. And that is in order for you guys to school in the venues, the actual competition venues, ahead of time. And that only happens on Tuesday. That doesn't happen on Monday. It doesn't happen on Wednesday. If you want to take advantage of arena familiarization, you need to be there on Tuesday with enough time. Those rings get very busy at the end of the day because everyone waits until the end of the day to school their horses. Don't do that. Go get there early when they're empty. And that's going to give you the opportunity to school over fences that you will be judged on during competition. This is not warm-up arenas. The warm-up arenas, like as long as it's during like open schooling hours, warm-up arenas you don't need tickets for, but every horse, 2 schooling tickets can use in the competition arena. Not every venue is available for like ticketed schooling. Like you cannot school on the competitive trail course ahead of time. You cannot school on the cross-country course ahead of time, but you can school over the hunter fences, the jumper fences. You can get yourself in the covered arena. You can get yourself in the dressage arenas. We will set up obstacles in the covered arena so that our competitive trail folks and our ranch folks can practice over those. So there's just so many ways to make sure you're setting your green horses up for success. Don't miss ticketed schooling, and you cannot buy extra tickets. I know we get that question every year. Every single horse gets 2 tickets. Use them how you wish. But you will not get more than them. We don't let people buy extra opportunities. We don't feel that is fair. So. All right. I think I've talked everyone's ear off here for an hour and a half. So thank you for joining me. Again, last call for questions. And if you have questions that you didn't feel comfortable asking tonight, or that come to you in the middle of the night tonight and plague you as they do, you can always email us, secretary@therrp.org. And we promise to just be in touch with you all throughout the rest of the year. This is not the last time you guys will hear from us. We will keep you informed. We will have another webinar all about actually filling out that final entry form that we have alluded to several times tonight. We will talk about stabling. We will talk about all the nitty-gritty. We will talk about the arrival exam, everything. So now it's just really just keeping in mind setting your horse up for success, and what discipline is going to be appropriate, making sure you register your horses, making sure you get any restrictions lifted, and make sure you make any entry changes you need to make. That's what you need to be focusing on right now. Things about where your stall is going to be, how you're going to bed your stall, all of that kind of stuff. Don't plague your brain with it yet. Worry about that in August.
There'll be plenty of time for that later.
Yeah.
And scan your horses, please.
Scan your horses for a microchip.
So next time your vet's out, run a scanner over them.
You are welcome, Courtney. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it. And we will be signing off now. So good night, everyone. Enjoy your night.